Welcome back, curious minds, to Bookish Dives. We've done a couple of these before, cracking open fascinating books to bring you the core insights, maybe some surprising facts that help you navigate our pretty complex world. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a book that, well, it really explains why so many of us can't seem to put down our phones, or stop scrolling, or even just, check something online for just a minute and suddenly, poof, hours gone. We're talking about Nir Eyal's groundbreaking book, Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products. This book kind of pulls back the curtain on how companies, often with just like bits of code displayed on a screen, seem to influence our behavior, and what makes some products just so incredibly habit-forming. Did you know, for example, that 79% of smartphone owners check their device within 15 minutes of waking up? It's wild.
It really is. Or that stat about a third of Americans preferring their phone over sex. That says something.
Right. It's clear. We're hooked. So our mission today is to unpack Eyal's hook model. It's this four-phase process companies use to, well, engineer our daily actions. So what does this all mean for you? Let's dive in.
Okay, so Eyal defines habits as automatic behaviors triggered by situational cues. Basically, things we do with little or no conscious thought.
Yeah, like that impulse reach for your phone when you feel bored for even a second.
Exactly. Or typing a question into Google the instant it pops into your head.
And for lots of companies, forming these habits isn't just like a nice bonus. It's often essential for their survival, for growth.
So how do they approach that?
Well, what's fascinating here is how they aim for what Eyal calls first-to-mind wins. Instead of constantly shelling out cash on expensive ads to bring you back, they want their product to be the first thing that pops into your head when you have a specific need or even just a feeling.
Oh, okay. Like if I feel lonely, Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious. Google. Precisely. That moment of uncertainty sends you automatically to Google. That pang of loneliness might send you to Facebook or Instagram. The product that comes to mind first, it often wins your attention.
And when a company nails that, when they successfully form strong user habits, the business advantages are, well, they're pretty significant, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. We're talking tangible benefits that fundamentally change how a company operates and grows.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest is increasing customer lifetime value, or CLTV. It's a huge metric. When users are habitually engaged, they stick around longer, they use the product more often, and naturally, they generate more revenue over time.
Right, like credit card companies spending big on getting new customers because they know a loyal one is worth so much over years.
Exactly. And it creates pricing flexibility, too.
How so?
Well, when a product becomes a really ingrained part of your routine, you become far less sensitive to price changes. Think about those free-to-play mobile games, like Candy Crush Saga. They apparently netted nearly $1 million a day at their peak. Yeah, just by converting habitual players into paying customers for, virtual items or extra lives.
Or Evernote. I remember reading about their CEO's smile graph.
Yes, Phil Libin. It showed willingness to pay just rocketed up the more users integrated the product into their daily lives, the more indispensable it felt.
And that habitual usage, it must supercharge growth too.
Totally. Think about it. The more often you use something, the more likely you are to share it or invite others or just talk about it. Facebook's a great example. Even though they were kind of late to the social media game, relatively speaking.
Right, MySpace was already huge.
Exactly. But Facebook leapfrogged competitors by leveraging what Eyal calls the more is more principle. Basically, more frequent usage drives more viral growth. The faster the viral cycle time, that's how long it takes a user to invite another user, the more exponential that growth becomes.
Which all leads to a massive competitive edge.
Huge. Products that genuinely change your routines are incredibly difficult to push aside. It's why you hear that innovators often need to be like 9 times better to overcome an existing habit.
Like the QWERTY keyboard, right? It's not the most efficient layout.
Not by a long shot. Layouts like Dvorak are technically better, but QWERTY persists. Why? Because the cost, the friction of changing everyone's typing habits is just ridiculously high.
Plus, users store value in these products. All your emails in Gmail, your photos on Instagram, your followers on Twitter.
That stored value makes it even harder to leave. You've invested time and data.
So all of this kind of brings us to what Eyal calls the habit zone.
Right. The habit zone. For a behavior to really become automatic, like a default action, it needs 2 things.
Right.
Enough frequency and enough perceived utility.
Okay. Frequency and usefulness.
Yeah. Google search. Super high on frequency for most of us. Amazon. maybe less frequent, but really high on perceived utility. It's the everything store.
But you need both.
You really do. Some things might be incredibly useful, but if you only need them once a year, they probably won't become a habit, you know? Not in the way Eyal means.
That raises a really interesting question he discusses. Are companies building vitamins or painkillers with these habit-forming techs?
Ah, yes, the vitamin versus painkiller analogy.
Yeah.
Well, traditionally, investors, they tend to prefer painkillers, right? Obvious solutions to clear problems, Tylenol for a headache. Easy to grasp.
Makes sense.
But Eyal argues that habit-forming technologies are actually kind of both. They might start off feeling like nice-to-have vitamins. Think early Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, maybe not essential at first. But once that habit is established, they become must-have painkillers. They provide relief from an itch, a subtle discomfort, a craving, maybe boredom or FOMO that you might not even consciously recognize.
So it shifts from nice to have to need to have.
Exactly. But it's really important to remember, Eyal is clear on this. Habits are not addictions. That's a different category. Habits can be perfectly healthy, like brushing your teeth every morning or saying thanks. They're automatic responses.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. Let's get into the model itself. The first step of the hook model, the trigger.
Right, the trigger. This is the initial spark plug, the actuator of behavior, as Eyal calls it.
The thing that gets it all started.
Precisely. New habits don't just materialize out of thin air. They're built on existing cues. Think of a trigger like that tiny irritant, that grain of sand that starts a pearl forming inside an oyster. It provides the initial basis for change. It signals to you what to do next.
And Eyal says there are two main types. First up, external triggers. These are things in your environment, sensory stuff, that tells you what to do. Could be obvious, like a big buy now button or a notification sound.
Or a thirsty sign on a vending machine. Yeah. Or even just seeing an app icon on your phone screen. Or clicking a link someone sent you, you inherently know to tap or click. It's an external prompt.
And there are different kinds of external triggers.
Right. Eyal breaks them down a bit. You've got paid triggers like ads, search engine marketing, mostly for getting new users, user acquisition. But companies can't keep paying to bring you back forever.
Makes sense. Too expensive.
Then there are earned triggers, think press mentions, viral videos. Great for awareness, but often unpredictable, short-lived. You can't really rely on them consistently.
Okay.
Relationship triggers are powerful for growth. That's word of mouth, basically. One person tells another. Think PayPal's early growth people had to sign up if someone sent them money. Or seeing an Instagram photo shared on Facebook might make you curious.
Though sometimes companies misuse those, right? Like tricking you into spamming your contact.
Oh, yeah, the dark patterns.
Yeah.
That definitely happens, and it damages trust badly. But the most critical ones for repeat engagement, for building the habit, are owned triggers.
Owned. What does that mean?
These are bits of real estate that the company controls with your permission in your environment. Like an app icon on your phone's home screen, an email newsletter you subscribe to, push notifications you allowed.
Ah, okay. They own that little space in your digital life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these own triggers are crucial for prompting you to come back again and again, bridging the gap until an internal trigger takes over.
Right, because those external prompts are just the beginning. The real goal, Eyal says, is to get you responding to an internal trigger.
Absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. Internal triggers are where a product becomes deeply intrinsically tied to a thought, an emotion, or an existing routine. You can't see them, you can't touch them, they just manifest automatically in your mind.
Like the example he uses of yin and Instagram.
Perfect example. Her fear of losing a special moment, or maybe just that feeling of wanting to capture something beautiful, she sees that's her internal trigger to open Instagram.
And often these internal triggers are rooted in negative emotions. Things like boredom, loneliness, frustration, confusion.
Or even just a slight feeling of uncertainty, or the fear of missing out FOMO, as everyone calls it now. We turn to products seeking to alleviate these subtle discomforts, these little psychic itches.
So if you're building a product, you need to figure out those itches.
That's the key. You need to identify those emotional pain points. One method Eyal highlights, borrowed from Toyota actually, is the 5 whys method.
Asking why 5 times.
Yeah. If you're building an email app, say, for someone named Julie, asking why, 5 times about why she checks her email so often might reveal her core internal trigger isn't just getting messages, but maybe a deeper fear of being out of the loop.
Understanding the real problem it solves.
Exactly. Not just the features. It's about the underlying need. As Evan Williams, who co-founded Blogger and Twitter, put it, the internet gives people what they want. But mostly, people just want to do the same things they've always wanted. Connect, be informed, feel competent, avoid boredom.
Okay, so trigger sparks it. What's next?
The trigger leads to action.
Right, the action. The behavior done in anticipation of a reward. And the key here, as Eyal puts it, is that doing something must be easier than thinking about it.
hmm Friction is the enemy of habit.
Because a habit is, by definition, something you do with little or no conscious thought. So if it's hard, you won't do it automatically.
Spot on. And this concept is really well explained by Dr. B.J. Fogg's behavior model. He sums it up as B equals MA.
B equals M.
Yeah. Behavior B happens when you have sufficient motivation, M, sufficient ability A, and a trigger T is present, all at the same time.
All three need to converge.
Yep. If any piece is missing or just too weak, the behavior won't happen. Think about your phone ringing. If it's buried deep in your bag, that's low ability. If you see it's a telemarketer calling, that's low motivation. If it's on silent and you don't hear it, there's no trigger. Any of those missing, you probably won't answer.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's look at motivation. Fogg identifies three core motivators, right?
He does. We're driven by seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, seeking hope and avoiding fear, and seeking social acceptance while avoiding rejection.
You see that everywhere in advertising. Political campaigns selling hope, their ads showing friends having fun together for social acceptance.
Absolutely. But here's the kicker. When it comes to actually influencing behavior, especially for habit formation, Fogg argues that the greatest return on investment often comes not from boosting motivation, but from increasing ability.
Making the action easier.
Exactly. Innovation, in many ways, just boils down to removing steps, reducing friction. Think how the internet itself evolved. We went from needing technical skills to build complex websites to simple blogging platforms.
To microblogging on Twitter, that 140-character limit seemed restrictive at first.
Right, but it actually made sharing thoughts way easier, much lower friction. Then came visual platforms like Instagram and Pinterest, making content creation even simpler, often just a tap or two.
So it's about simplicity. Eyal lists 6 elements of simplicity, doesn't he?
He does. Things that influence how difficult a task feels. Time it takes, money it costs, physical effort required, brain cycles, the mental effort, social deviance, how accepted the behavior is, and non-routine, how much it disrupts existing habits.
And the goal for designers is to simplify based on whatever the user's scarcest resource is at that moment. If they're short on time, make it quicker. If they're mentally taxed, make it require less thought.
Precisely. And you see companies implement this brilliantly. Think about the Facebook login button appearing everywhere, eliminated countless registration steps across the web.
Oh yeah, huge time saver.
Or the Twitter tweet button on websites that pre-fills messages, less cognitive load for you. Google's famously minimalist homepage removed all clutter, focusing you solely on the search action. Less thinking, just doing.
The iPhone camera being accessible right from the lock screen.
Made capturing a photo effortless, increasing ability massively. Or Pinterest's infinite scroll genius. It removes the friction, the little mental hurdle of clicking next page and waiting. You just keep scrolling.
It's really interesting how focusing on ability often wins. You mentioned Twitter's evolution. Their homepage changed drastically.
It really did. Their 2009 homepage was quite cluttered, trying hard to motivate you, explain everything. By 2012, it was radically simpler. Just sign up or log in. Action-focused.
Because they realized getting people in and using it was more effective than trying to convince them up front.
Exactly. Let the experience speak for itself once you reduce the friction to get there.
And beyond just simplifying steps, our brains use shortcuts, heuristics that can be leveraged too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Our brains are wired to take mental shortcuts to make quick decisions, and these cognitive biases can influence our actions. Like the scarcity effect, we perceive things as more valuable when they seem limited. Think Amazon's only 5 left in stock messages. Makes you want to grab it faster.
Or the endowed progress effect. That's the LinkedIn profile completion bar, right?
That's a perfect example. It starts you off with some progress already made, which increases your motivation to complete the task. It feels like you're already on your way, just nudging you to take the next action.
Okay, so trigger initiates, action is made easy. Then comes phase 3, variable reward.
The variable reward, this is where you actually reward the user for taking the action. You solve their problem, scratch that itch, but with a twist.
A twist being variability.
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating, based on neuroscience research, is that it's often not the reward itself that drives the behavior most strongly. It's the anticipation of the reward.
The craving.
Precisely. Dopamine levels surge in the brain in anticipation of the reward, not necessarily when receiving it. This anticipation, this craving, is what compels us forward. Like those lab mice who couldn't stop pressing the lever to stimulate their brain's pleasure centers.
And the variability is crucial. Why is that?
Because predictable rewards become boring quickly. Think about your fridge light. It turns on every single time you open the door. Get excited about it, right? It's predictable, useful, but not habit-forming in the same way.
But if, say, a different snack appeared every time I opened the fridge,
You'd be opening that door a lot more often just to see what might be there. It's the uncertainty, the unpredictability that creates intrigue and keeps us checking, scrolling, engaging. Think B.F. Skinner's famous experiments with pigeons.
they pecked the disc way more often when the reward came intermittently, unpredictably.
Dramatically more often. Predictability leads to decreased response over time. Variability keeps us hooked.
So, Eyal categorizes these variable rewards into 3 types, based on human needs.
Yes, 3 core types.
Yeah.
First, rewards of the tribe. These tap into our deep-seated need for social connection, acceptance, feeling important, being part of a group.
So likes, comments, shares on Facebook or Instagram.
Exactly. That endless scrolling through a social feed is partly a hunt for social validation. Stack Overflow is another great example. Developers get upvotes, badges, reputation points for answering questions well. It's peer recognition, a powerful tribal reward.
Okay, so social rewards, what's the second type?
Rewards of the hunt. This taps into our more primal drive to acquire resources, information, or objects.
Like finding a great deal on Amazon. Or slot machines.
Slot machines are the classic offline example, absolutely. The anticipation of hitting the jackpot. Online, think about scrolling your Twitter feed or news feed. You're hunting for that next interesting tweet, that juicy bit of information, that surprising video.
Pinterest too, right? The way images are often cut off slightly.
Yes, it compels you to scroll down just to reveal the full picture. It's a subtle hunt.
And the third type.
Rewards of the self. These are more intrinsic rewards related to mastery, competence, completion, control. We seek them for personal gratification.
Like leveling up in a video game.
Perfect example. Achieving goals, unlocking new abilities, overcoming challenges. Those are rewards of the self. Surprisingly, email can function this way too. For many people, getting to inbox 0 feels like an achievement, a sense of mastery over their tasks.
I know that feeling.
Right. Apps like Mailbox cleverly tapped into this by making it easier to achieve that feeling. Or look at Codecademy, teaching programming. They use immediate feedback, points, badges, turning a potentially difficult learning process into an engaging game focused on mastery.
But it's crucial, Eyal says, that these rewards aren't just tacked on. They have to satisfy a genuine user need, right? It's not just magic dust.
Absolutely not. They have to scratch the user's itch, the one that brought them there via the internal trigger. Gamification only works if it enhances an experience the user already finds intrinsically rewarding, at least on some level.
He gives that example comparing Mahalo and Quora.
Yeah, it's a great contrast. Mahalo tried to pay users small amounts for answering questions. It failed. Why? Because people didn't want a low-paying job from a Q&A site. That wasn't their core motivation.
But Quora succeeded.
Quora succeeded by offering social rewards, upvotes, comments, recognition from peers, feeling knowledgeable. That aligned much better with why people participate in such communities. Rewards of the tribe and the self.
That makes sense. And another critical point is maintaining the user's sense of autonomy.
Hugely important. People naturally resist feeling controlled or coerced. When choices feel constrained, we often push back.
Like the Quora example where they automatically opted users into a feature showing browsing history.
Exactly. Users revolted because it felt like a violation of their autonomy and privacy. Conversely, studies show people are more likely to comply with a request if you simply add the phrase, "but you are free to accept or refuse." Just acknowledging their choice makes a difference.
So how does this apply to product design?
Well, think about something like fitness tracking. MyFitnessPal asks you to adopt a new, often tedious behavior, meticulously tracking calories. For many people, myself included back when I tried it, it feels like a chore. It threatens your sense of autonomy. Ugh, I have to log this.
Yeah, I can see that.
Compare that to something like Fitocracy, which focused more on community, challenges, and connecting with like-minded people. It built on existing social desires, leveraging rewards of the tribe, social acceptance, encouragement, to make healthy habits feel appealing and voluntary, rather than imposed. You want to engage.
Okay, autonomy is key. And one last thing about rewards. Beware of finite variability.
Right. Experiences that become predictable over time lose their allure. A TV series is amazing the first time, but once you know the plot twists, the variability is gone. Rewatching might still be enjoyable, but the hook is weaker.
Like Zynga's games after Farmville, they felt like reskinned clones.
Exactly. Volatile fatigue set in because the core reward loop became too predictable. The most engaging habit-forming products often exhibit infinite variability.
Meaning they stay fresh.
Yeah. The experience remains novel even with continued use. User-generated content platforms are prime examples. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. The content is always changing because people are generating it, and human behavior is endlessly variable.
And multiplayer games, too.
Definitely. Games played with other real people, like World of Warcraft or online poker, have infinite variability because other players' actions are inherently unpredictable. That keeps things engaging long-term.
Okay, trigger, action, variable reward. That brings us to the final, crucial step in the hook model, investment.
The investment phase. This is where the user puts something of value into the product. It could be time, data, effort, social capital, or even money.
And why is this so important? How does it complete the loop?
Because this investment increases the likelihood of the user returning and going through the hook cycle again. It loads the next trigger. And it ties into some interesting psychology. Remember that study on habit formation? It found a key element was a change in the user's attitude about the behavior. Investment helps foster that change. The more effort we put into something, the more we tend to value it.
That's Dan Ariely's IKEA effect, right?
Exactly. People who assemble their own IKEA furniture value it more than identical pre-assembled furniture. That effort, that investment, changes their perception of its worth. Same with the study where people valued their self-made origami creations way higher.
We also like to be consistent with our past behaviors, don't we?
Very much so. It's a powerful bias. A small initial investment, a small yes, can pave the way for much larger future commitments. Eyal mentions the classic study where people first agreed to put a tiny "Be a safe driver" sign in their window.
And then we're way more likely to agree to a huge, ugly, drive carefully billboard on their lawn later.
Yep, because they'd already made a small commitment consistent with that identity. Saying no later would create inconsistency.
We want to avoid that cognitive dissonance.
Right, that mental discomfort we feel when holding conflicting ideas or when our actions don't align with our beliefs. We actively work to resolve it, often by rationalizing our past actions or changing our beliefs to fit.
Think about acquiring a taste for something like beer or spicy food. You might not like it at first, but you invest effort, keep trying it, maybe because peers do, and eventually you rationalize and change your perception. Actually, I do like this.
Like that funny quote about the Mafia Wars player.
Yes, Jesse Shell's quote. I've spent time on it, so it must be worthwhile. And now that I've kicked in $20, it must be valuable because only an idiot would kick in $20 if it wasn't. It's pure rationalization driven by investment.
So how do products actually encourage this investment? What does it look like in practice?
The core idea is that the service gets better for you the more you use it and invest in it personally. This isn't about immediate gratification like the reward phase. It's about anticipating longer-term rewards and utility.
Okay, so examples. Think about content. Every song you add to your iTunes or Spotify library, every photo you upload to Google Photos or Facebook, every connection you make on LinkedIn that's user-generated content that represents an investment.
It makes the service more valuable to me over time.
Exactly. Your digital life gets recorded, archived. Leaving becomes harder because you'd lose all that stored value, all that investment.
And data is another big one.
Huge. Users invest data either actively or passively. LinkedIn constantly prompts you to complete your profile, add skills, experience, education. The more data you invest, the better it works for you and the more committed you become.
Or Mint.com, aggregating all your financial accounts.
Right. Linking accounts, categorizing transactions, setting budgets, that's all investment of time and data. It makes Mint incredibly valuable to you, tailored to your financial life. That stored value is immense.
So ultimately, we invest in products kind of like we invest in relationships. The more we put in, the more we feel we benefit, and the stronger the tie becomes.
That's a great analogy. It's a form of reciprocation, even if it's with a piece of software. This investment stage closes the loop. It makes you more likely to experience the internal trigger again. It stores value, making the variable reward more attractive next time, and it sets you up for the next pass through the hook, leading eventually to that unprompted habitual engagement.
So there you have it, the hook model by Nir Eyal. It's this really powerful framework Trigger, action, variable reward, and investment.
Hmm.
And it really helps explain why we get hooked, maybe sometimes more than we'd like, on the products we use every single day. From social media and games to search engines and productivity apps, these principles are constantly at play, shaping our digital habits.
And understanding this model, it offers you a unique perspective, almost like a superpower, really. It helps you first to critically evaluate the products out there that are designed to capture your attention. But it also empowers you, if you're a creator or innovator, to think about how you might build technologies that genuinely improve lives by fostering healthy, positive habits. So the question really becomes, what stands out to you after hearing about this? How might you use these insights, either just as a user navigating your own digital world, or maybe as someone thinking about building something new?
We really hope this bookish dive has given you some profound new insights into something that, let's face it, impacts all of our lives pretty deeply now. If you've enjoyed learning how products change what we do, and maybe by extension who we are, be sure to follow Bookish Dives for more explorations into fascinating books and their world-changing ideas. Thanks so much for joining us.